Ready? Hello.
Oh, hi there.
I fancy seeing you here.
Hey everyone, it's been a moment since we've recorded together. And we love recording together. It's so magic. So we love you. This is
Easter
our God.
holidays are over.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved having them, but yeah, it's so nice. Like, I've really missed doing this. It's just been so lovely to get back into it. So
Absolutely. How are you feeling?
really good, really, really good. Literally, just like I said to you the other day, I want to be able to walk into a room where time stops, and then I can do as much work as I want, and I can lose myself in thought and concentration, and get stuff done, and then come back out, and it's like pick up where I left off in time. But yeah, I haven't figured that one out yet. We'll get there.
Do you know
I'm
what?
open door for that possibility.
That's such a sure sign that you're doing the right thing. The fact that you want to have that much time, like you love it so much. Like it's such a simple signpost that you're like, give me all the time in the world. I want to
Yeah.
do loads of it.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
yeah, I'm good. I feel like I got the energy hit before everyone else, so I could maybe be okay for everyone else while their energies were hitting them. I don't know. I don't know. How are
Absolutely.
you?
Yeah, I'm really good too. It's fascinating. I feel like I had the eclipse because obviously we're in right now as we film this, it's the 19th. And eclipses often bring in like fated events, sudden endings, and sudden beginnings. And I feel like I had mine 2 days ago instead of like now. And I maybe the same for you as well. I know you were picking up, everyone was like having them, and you were kind of chatting with people, right? As we all had that energy come in.
Yeah. But well, it's all good. We definitely got ING hit last week, big time. It was
You
huge.
guys did so good though, like so good.
Anyway, what are we going to talk about today?
So we've both been guided to share a little bit about our individual paths because, we can both sit here and say like, it's so good, our lives are amazing, which I'm not going to lie, they are. Like our lives are really basic. We both don't have loads of money. We both just live really simple lives, but we are the happiest that we've ever been. But we want people to understand that like everybody can have this. We're not just women who have always been really happy. We have both walked the path. And I think moving forward, individuality, authenticity, people like getting to know you is really important. And I think for both of us, we want to share where we've been and how we got to this place, right?
Yeah. And I also really want to talk about what happens when we go through what I like to call a new growth phase. So something we get triggered, or we're going, what do I do with this? This is new, and your brain's scrambling to kind of figure out the pathway through. And just describing that though. So like it's a little bit like walking through the rainforest. Like you've got to fort a path, and there's all this kind of like vegetation in your way, and you're like, what do I do? Where do I go? What tool do I need? And you're cutting down the obstacles, let's say, or working through it. But it's akin to being, and sorry, I'm shouting. It's akin to being a
You're not
little kid at Christmas fighting through the wrapping paper and opening the box, because
really.
we've done this a few times now. We know what happens, and it's getting to a stage where we have got this reliability of getting the gift, having
Yeah.
that divinity wash over us, having that, but I got caught up in the drama a little bit, I was a bit triggered, or I was a little bit like, and I applied the tools,
Yeah.
got the gift, we got the growth. Oh my God, getting this growth is like, imagine you could walk into the end of a rainbow, and it's very apt that we've got the backgrounds like we have today, but imagine walking, or even
Aliens, wrong hand.
exactly,
Aliens.
I was just about to say that, imagine you were walking under a spaceship beam of friendly aliens, and you're just like, you feel so alive because it's a new experience, you've never done it before, and you're like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
And it's so exciting, it's so thrilling, it's so full of life force energy. It's addictive. But at the same time, you look back at who you are, and you observe the growth, you observe the old behaviors, the new behaviors, the new ideas that are helping you form the new you of that moment. You can see super you in that direction, ego in that direction, or whatever, and you can see where you are on the journey and how it becomes such a symphony. It becomes such a beautiful living interaction with reality, and it's so exciting. And what it does is it helps you chill out. It helps you get more positive and optimistic, because you're like, how many times do I need to go through this process to know it is going to be not just okay, but amazing? Like, and you're like, how many levels to this stuff is there? Like, it's just getting better and better. The realizations and the growth is getting bigger and bigger. The stretches of feeling in this 5D heaven on earth space are longer and longer. It's getting easier and easier.
But we both love the path now, don't we? We love the, like, you know,
and the scenery and the twists and the turns, and it's just like, it's just amazing. So we really wanted to, like you were saying, just talk to you about how an overview of our journey, so you can see that this is not just two girls that just happened to get it right and we were lucky, or born with the right outlook and that's why it was easy. No, really, no. And so, yeah, do you want to go first?
Oh no, I want you to go first.
All right, okay, fine. So
Nick, tell us about your journey. Tell us about the key points. I want to hear.
Yeah, it's the key points and the stages, right? So first stage was being 9 years old, not enjoying going to church on a Sunday morning with my mum, Catholic church, boring, awful. So I would distract her. I'd be really quiet in the morning. If she didn't wake up, my dad always went to work really early on a Sunday even. So if I was really quiet, she wouldn't wake up. We didn't go to church. After a few weeks of this, she was too embarrassed to show her face at church again. I was like, yes. You know,
I love how you even canny as a 9-year-old.
Oh, yeah. So that was that. Then I remember at 17, 16 being at school, and somebody said, oh, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. And I was like, yeah, me too. But I didn't quite know what spiritual meant.
Yeah.
And then I was 20, I think, and I was going to New York for work, and I was on a flight to JFK, and the in-flight magazine said 10 books that will change your life, a list of, and some of them I was familiar with. And at the very end was a book called Conversations with God. And I got really pissed off at that title. I was like, what are they insinuating? What, just what's going on? You know, I was really like almost choked up. Coincidentally, 3 days later on the return flight home, the whole of JFK airport was shut down for maintenance or cleaning or something. This tiny little kiosk was open. The book just happened to be there on the shelf on one little revolving book stand. I mean, what, you fit 20, 25 books on this thing? And all the books in all the world, that book was there. So I picked it up. And the in-flight entertainment system was broken on the flight home. So I had no choice but to read this book for 13 hours straight. And it was amazing. And I read this book, and when I bought into this book, when the guy was like, he was automatic writing and he was reading the responses, and then he was writing in response to those responses, and it was this dialogue that got published. And he said quite early on, maybe a couple of chapters in, he goes, so who am I writing? Who's talking to me now? Am I becoming schizophrenic? You know, is this God? Like, and the answer was, does it matter? Have you ever had such good advice? And I was like, that's so true. And I read this book, and what I loved about it, it gave me some really chewy concepts. My brain hurt to read some of these chapters. I had to read some pages over and over again to get it. And he would say things like, there is no right and wrong. And I was like, what do you mean there's no right and wrong? Anyway, so I took it in. I tried to like discuss it with other people, like my boyfriend at the time, and he's just looking at me like I'm crazy. Anyway. And that book absolutely changed my life. And then fast forward, I did an NLP course.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
How were you? Were you happy as a child? Were you happy as a young adult? Were you?
I was unconfident. I was
okay, you were unconfident.
Only child. I would say I was a little bit overly disciplined, but at the same time,
but you're an amazing human being for it, you know.
God bless my mum and my dad. Anyway, so yeah, I wasn't very confident. I wanted to connect and be with others. So I talked too much. I always had the gift of the gab, but it was yeah, it was running in the wrong direction. So anyway, I would get embarrassed, a lot of shame and embarrassment, that sort of thing. But generally, I had some good friends and good people around me, and I didn't have any trauma really. So,
And you were a model as well.
yeah. Which was funny because I was too big to be a skinny model, but I was too small to be a big model. So I kind of was like in the middle. And I didn't enjoy it. It was very, being judged.
Fascinating with the confidence thing. They said, you said you lacked in confidence. Yeah, obviously you're very attractive. So that must have been conflicting, right?
It was weird because I used to have people say to me, like, let's say I'd walk into a bar and then I'd end up chatting to somebody who noticed me walking in. And the amount of times, if I had a quid for every time somebody said to me, when I saw you, you look like you were such a bitch, but you're all right, aren't you? I have, honestly, that has happened to me so many times. And I was like, and I think what it was, I was so unconfident. And I was like, I would, if I could be invisible, if somebody was selling invisible cloaks, I would have been first in the queue. I did not like to be centre of attention. I was tall, I had big boobs. It was, blonde
hair. You're a magnet for attraction, aren't you?
Oh man, when I would like walk past building sites at 13, I was like, please just don't notice me.
Oh, that's the worst, I think, when you're a child.
All sorts of things like that. Trampolining lessons, got a bit of grief then,
Just say, did you get some black eyes?
It was never that bad, but I just got I did not like the attention, did not like it. Anyway, so fast forward, I was like mid-20s.
And you had seasonal depression, right?
Seasonal affective disorder, which I got rid of. I'd had quite significant seasonal affective disorder since I was 13 years old. That's the earliest I remember having it, because my parents, bless them, bought me a horse at that stage, and there was a DIY yard, so every day after school you'd have to go up and do all the jobs and whatnot. And I remember sitting in my friend's stable just crying my eyes out in the winter. There was no reason, nothing had gone wrong. I was just so low, and bless her, she just let me stay there and cry and didn't try and talk to me. She held space for me, which is great. So I was 21, I'd read this book, I found out about seasonal affective disorder, and I cured myself of it, or I used the technique in this book to cure myself of it the next year when I felt it coming in, or the next season. And in this book, it says, if you want something, thank for it, because you are putting out to the universe that you've already received what you're asking for. Thank for it. Well, I felt the seasonal affective disorder kick in on the train platform on my way to work one day. And I was like, oh my God, it's back. And then I was like, thank you for it going. Thank you for me being, whatever version of thanking that this thing had gone, I said it. And I said it with my whole heart. The gratitude, I almost want to say in desperation. I was desperately grateful for this thing to go. 2 days gone for life. Never had it since. The only time I've ever had depression since was when or not that depression anyway, was when I was pregnant, and I, hormonal related pregnancies. And I got rid of that with my chakra rebalancing. Took 10 minutes, less than that. So then fast forward, I did an NLP course because I'd heard something about it, and I was free in the days. I'd work and teach makeup in the evenings. So I was free in the daytime. So I took this makeup course. Took this NLP course, and I liked it. And then I did my master's, and there was all hypnosis in there, and basically tools for how you could help overcome emotional or even physical blocks and disease and stuff. And I was like, this stuff's amazing. And I could see how it married with the conversation with God stuff. And they talked about the same thing, but in completely different language sets, And I was like, stuff's amazing. And I wanted to create a program for kids to teach this stuff, but instead of using like reams and reams of text, I wanted to do it with like color diagrams. And this is what I do. I just noticed that I have this ability to take complex things and streamline them and make them really simple. I get the bits you need and nothing else, and put that into a formula, and then teach it to somebody who hasn't got a clue, never done it before, and they can get really good results. So that's my thing. And then I had a job centre contract for 6 months where I was working with their young kids. So they had to come in to see me for 2 hours, and I'd chat to them. And they'd walk
Oh,
out.
I bet you're amazing at
Oh,
that.
it was amazing. Yeah, I've got a few amazing stories for that. And then I carried on being a makeup artist and doing my career, met my husband, then had kids and stuff. And I would coach people just by the by here and there and share sort of like info and whatnot. And it was always my long-term passion to make a free website resource that could teach all this stuff. And that I believed it should be free. I believe this is what we should all know. We should be taught this in schools for free, but I'm working on that bit. And then I met and found the new Earth Transitionary Government. I met you, and that was incredible because it married my passion for a better way and a new world and a better life for people and making a difference and making a change with God and spirituality, and which has been close to my heart ever since I read that book when I was 20. And I do God, I don't do religion. No, I'm not knocking religion, because for some people then that's what they want and that's what they need, whatever. But for me, it's just direct link, straight direct line into God. And
It really activated a lot for you, didn't it? It all just fell into place so quickly.
it
It was
really did.
so obvious. It was fascinating.
And then when we got chatting and we started sharing tools and techniques, and like you were teaching me about a whole load of stuff, and I was just like and I remembered I'd set my intent. I remember we were chatting and I was like, wow, like my reality is becoming
Oh.
unbelievably cool and fascinating and exciting and interesting, and I'm growing. Yeah, I'm still staying here in my house, being a housewife and a mum, and and doing my thing. So, and I remember lying in bed, setting my intent one day, because every night I'd say, "Thank you, God, for la 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 la, and my health and my happiness, and da da da, my pets and my family and my friends and whatnot, and all the rest of it." And then one day I just remember saying, "Thank you for the most crazy, exciting, bonkers, cool, mad, wonderful, thrilling." Like I put every every positive description in this sentence, life, and I got it. This is it. This is where I'm at.
I think it's
Um,
really important to talk about how when I met you, you were struggling with being a mum, weren't you? And that is a lot of where the work, the tools have been downloaded from your experiences. Do you want to tell us a
yeah.
little bit about that?
So
I'm sure
yeah,
there's a lot of people that feel the same.
yeah. So I was a mum quite early, quite late in life. I met my husband quite late. We decided to have a family, and I was like, it's good times. I've had like my young life, and my horses have always been a massive part of my life, and I felt like I've now, it's time to be a mum. Time was running out. But yeah, it all worked out perfect in time wise, and I'd realised I'd manifested the amazing husband I'd thank for every night, and my life was tickety boo. I mean, I wasn't rich, but in every other way, it was great. And then we had our first little girl, and at 18 months old, I was really tested. She had a will of iron. And I'm the opposite. I'm very flexible, adaptable. I'm a bit watery in that way, but I'm a fire sign. Don't get that. I'll have to ask you about that later. But
Because you're sad, you want to try it all. You're like, I'll do that, and then I'll do that, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do that, and then I'll do that, and I'll do it all.
sounds about right.
I've got to literally do it all right now.
Yeah, that sounds right. So she turned up, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with this. Like, when you become a parent, you start to enact all the unconscious training and everything you've absorbed about being a parent. And for me, my ego came out to the max. And thankfully for the work that we'd done, and I'd learned extra work about the ego. I mean, I went to, the ego work that I learned through, 5D full disclosure and New Earth Transitionary Government, and that group was magnifying glass on the ego. Whereas up until then, I kind of only really thought the ego was your vanity or your arrogance. I didn't realize you could have a deficit side, which was embarrassment, shame, fear. I didn't know all of that. So I really got my final leg of training, I think, with this ego side of things. And
Yeah.
I've always been a thinker. I've always liked to like mull things over and understand, because as we now say, where understanding exists, pain cannot. So I love the understanding and the growth in the student side of things. And then I would do some of the stuff that was, well, all of the stuff that was recommended. But the biggest thing for me is when I threw my fear to the angels. I was walking the dogs. It's on my website, 5djourney.org. You see the real pictures, the real dog, the real place, you know. And I literally had to leave I had a job paying the bills, not what I wanted to do, but, you know, it was COVID and you did what you had to do. And because we had no childcare, and half term, the first half term, my little girl started school, and literally on the Thursday, I found out that the half term started on the Friday afternoon. I was like, oh, I literally had to phone my boss up and go, I've got to resign. And he goes, oh, when? I went, now. He's like, what? Yeah, sorry about that. And I'm walking the dog and I'm like, now what do I do for money? But my mission, this sort of work, was already creeping in. And I just remember going, I knew I was going to be all right, because I've been pretty successful at manifesting stuff, like ever since.
And you're a manifester as well.
I am, yeah, for the
So
last 20 years. And then
you have to bat it off with a stick. You're like, no, no more miracles. Just kidding.
yes, I remember throwing my fear to the angels like it was a massive boulder in front of me and I needed all my strength, and I threw it, and I physically did that maneuver. And again, the amount of energy you put into something, I think, really does come back to you fourfold, or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
And that changed my life, because I noticed things happen where I would be embarrassed. So I'll stop after this bit.
No,
And
no, it's just an observation about you. I think it would be cool to share.
yeah, go on, go on.
I think, thinking about it, your rising and your moon is in Gemini. Gemini wants to try everything. It's duality. It like wants to try the dark, it wants to try the light, it wants to work everything out. And it is you down to a T, isn't it? It's like it's trying the whole plather. Is that's a word? You know,
Yeah.
it's like I want to experience all. I want to work it out, because Gemini. Anyway, it's
And my
fascinating.
daughter's the same. She's Gemini. She's treble Gemini.
Yes, she's Gemini. She's Gemini. And some as well. She's like, and a bit more fire in there. Oh, it's air though. It's masculine. Yeah.
So yeah, after I gave my fear to the angels, I really saw an impact with that in my life. And then other things I started sort of, let's say I was just aligning to what my core, what I knew was true in my heart, and I would follow that. And then what beautiful, everything just fell into place. And I started to, you actually helped me realize that I get channeled through my thoughts, these subtle little, so subtle. I don't hear voices. I have done in the past, but I don't hear voices. I don't really connect my angels the way you can. But I have subtle thoughts that come. And I learned to really listen to those thoughts and start working with them. And then I started developing more content that was more streamlined and more, I'd had the conversation with God knowledge, major God downloads, let's say. Then I had all the NLP, the techniques of changing your brain, how it works and how it feels and thinks and produces behaviors and stuff. And then I had the ego training and that real, and then I put it all together. And what's kind of emerged is like the work I'm really doing now. And what I love so much, I literally could not pick a better job for myself, is that I can talk to somebody and I can really help them. What we say and what we've coined is get the gift from their negative experiences. I show them how now this was divinity in action. This is your life blossoming open. So whereas you thought this was potentially even a weed growing up, all of a sudden we're opening up this flower and it's like astounding. And that's what I'm doing now. And I have just started now working into focusing on the physical side of things. But it's all coming back to the same thing. It's all coming back to strategies, the strategies we use. So we'll talk about that after. So really, it was just me then using what I was learning and developing on my mothering skills. And I can honestly, hand on my heart, say what used to be 2 hours of hell in the morning, screaming. I had a child who was almost, you could almost call her psychotic, getting ready in the morning, ripping clothes off her own body, saying it's hurting.
Uh,
When they're lycra, loose lycra things, there's no way it could have been hurting. Her skin wasn't rashed. It wasn't. It was only in the morning. It was only getting ready. To now, she comes into my room. She's fully dressed, bag on her back, and she's helping her little brother get ready. And she's even trying to make the dog food. And she knows now what goes on in the morning. And she's trying to do it all.
wow, go
She's,
Vienna.
she's just incredible. And, you know, she's like, I love you, mummy. I love you, mummy. I mean, the amount of time she says that in a day. So it has literally flipped 180 for us. And
But I just want to reiterate for everybody, it wasn't easy. It wasn't nice. It wasn't fun what Nick went through. She wasn't happy as a mum. And because she has done the work, and I'm not gonna lie, it's the divinity of the experience has allowed Nick to activate her mission and to help other people. But she has changed what was kind of hell to an incredible, by you, you know, healing yourself, working on yourself, like using the experience. It's an amazing success story, you know.
It really is. And what was great is that I would get this idea and I'd test it out. I had this everyday occurrence. I could test it out on to see if it worked. And the big things that were, the more compassion you give, the better it gets. Your ego cannot live in the same place as judgment and control. No, sorry. When your ego needs judgment and control to survive. And when you throw compassion at it, you're surrendering, you're being in the heart. You cannot. However, what I was finding was that it was very much an effort. I had to stop and go, right, be compassionate, you know, and that was almost like letting her get away with whatever she wanted to, because any amount of, darling, do it in this order instead, or, you know, try this, it'll be easier, or you're getting upset about that, try doing that. And it's like, no, I want to do it this way. It was like, it was such a battle. And the amazing thing came when I realized that I had to commit to being my super you. Basically, the unwanted part. So it's the parts within me was the part that found it so hard to be a mum. I thought it'd be so easy. I thought I'd take it to a duck to water. So the part of me that struggled so much being a mum, because I just loved her and I wanted to help her and you know, do the best thing for her and teach her. I don't want your help. No, nothing. I'm like, this is a 4-year-old. It's insane. So I looked at the unwanted parts. It was definitely when I looked at what that ego was screaming at me and what was festering there. And I realized that it took motherhood so seriously. And that's why maybe I was so serious. So I was like, okay. And that was definitely like this, I was able to be automatically a brilliant mum. And I found it easy. I was like, oh, this was such amazing and a major change, because I didn't have to try every moment to be compassionate and you know, bash my ego down. It wasn't like that. It was like I had to go through another door. And when I sat down at a table and spoke to my ego and say, right, talk to me. What are you thinking and feeling? What do you need? And I acknowledged that. I was like, you do take this seriously. And that's cool, because being a mum is a big deal. So then that was step one. But then a week later, ego started coming back. And I was like, I thought we had a deal, because we had this whole talk to the unwanted parts, make a deal. And the deal was, I took it seriously. So I kind of cut myself a bit of slack, and I didn't have to be quite so serious. But then I found my ego coming back. I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And I looked at what Super You would do, and I saw a flash picture in my mind, or a flash movie in my mind, of me taking the kids somewhere and having fun with them. And I was like, that's what I'm not doing. And I realized I wasn't committed to being super me as a mum. So I literally took my higher self and I took my ego and I went, we're working together. And boom, that was it.
Wow.
And it's holding. But it's almost like I've got my ego in the background. And this is why I use the CEO, compliance officer, and higher self comparison. So you're the CEO of the company of your parts, the inner parts, all the different parts within you that I've got one job each, and that one job might be for one to be strong, or to be the communicator, or to be the mum, or to be the friend, or to, you know, they've all got one job each, but there's thousands of parts, and you're the CEO, and you've been given the job by, you know, the top dog, you know, the, I don't know, chairman of the board, whatever. You've been put in the CEO. But they've also put in a compliance officer, which is ego. And that compliance officer is there to show you any flaws in what you're doing, any flaws in your strategy of how to run that company. It's going to show you. And it doesn't give a shit. It doesn't need to be liked by you. It's going to do its job because it takes it very seriously. But sometimes the CEO will like, oh man, I don't want to have this meeting with this bloody annoying character today. They don't, you know, they don't let me off the hook, and they're really nitty and picky. And anyway, so when you make room and make time and listen to that compliance officer and go, right, what do you need? What do you need? What's going down on the shop floor? Like, what are all the staff saying? Well, they're a bit peed off about this, and a few of them don't like this. Most of them are happy with that, but this is really the, you know, what needs fixing up first. Right, okay. And if you can literally go, so I did an amazing session with somebody yesterday, and they said, I don't let myself have fun because I feel like I must be much more constructive with my time. And that was like a 3D broken strategy. This is how I'm calling it. And I said, what if we replace it with the 5D strategy, which is find a way to have fun while doing something constructive? And she's like, oh my God. So we're literally now raising this 3D strategy that could be unbalanced or unhealthy to a 5D strategy, which is like win-win. And if you go to the compliance officer, what about this for an idea? How about we take the complaint, and I've got to, like, I would love this general happiness picture, and we like meet in the middle. How about that? Or at least let's try that and see what happens. And the compliance is like, all right, sounds like a plan. I'll take it back to the, you know, the staff, and and this is literally a really good way of seeing it. So literally that's where we are, and doing this with physical disease, I'm so happy to say it's going straight back to the core beliefs again. The physical ailment is like, the compliance officer is like, you are not listening. I'm now making a picket line and we're going on strike. And that's when you start to listen. You know, this is like what the physical disease comes in. It's like, I'm having, and often what will happen is the unconscious mind is like, I need a rest, I need a break, I need time to think. And often a lot of disease gives you just that.
Absolutely.
But also broken. It's never going to be okay to maintain that because it is not ideal, but it's a means to an end. So by looking at the core beliefs, the strategies, fixing them up, all of a sudden these physical conditions, and people just know inside they've hit on something that's going to work. So it's early days, but yeah, so that's where we're at, really.
I just think it's fascinating. Like, everybody's path is so individual, right? And like everybody's mission is so individual, and like the mission and the path is so intertwined. Like, it's so important as an individual that you follow what you like, everything that you did right got you to here, to you, for you to activate your mission, for you to help everyone heal. So there is no wrong way up the mountain. I really have to, like you say this, you know, it's so important that we all, and the present moment, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Like, whatever you're going through, you're not broken, you're not doing it wrong, you're not failing, you are receiving what you need. And those, like for Nick, when she was a mum and she was finding it harder, you know, I know you would have been there beating yourself up, like, I'm doing this, I'm failing, but actually it was how it was meant to be to get to this point. So yeah, it's just fascinating. And I wonder if we've been guided to share our stories so that everybody can see the divinity in their own paths, understanding that nobody is above anybody, nobody is doing better than anyone. You are like, I don't know, it's all mapped out, you know, it's by our higher selves. It's fascinating.
I just want to use this mountain analogy. So imagine you've got a mountain, and you can either, the quickest way up that mountain is to follow your gut feeling. Follow that, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's not logical.
Exactly.
You're pulled towards something, do it. But at the same time, if you're pulled towards walking around the mountain instead of going straight up to it, so trust that you're going that way for a reason, because then if your job is to eventually be the mountain pathway guide, you can say to everyone, guys, listen up, if you go around that way, there's a big pit hole. Don't go that way. I've been there. I know. I've seen it. I fell in it. Don't do it. If you want to, you can if you want, but I advise not to. Quickest way up the mountain is this way, you know? Yet you wouldn't be such a good guide for everyone if you didn't know about that pitfall, if you didn't know what's behind the mountain, what's the longest way to get up the mountain. So life is such a beautiful, complex, yet, or complexity, yet you can do this one rule fits all thing, which encompasses your unique journey. This is the beautiful thing.
Yeah.
We are all made the same way. We've all got 6 human needs. We've got 4 of the ego, 2 of the soul. We're here to grow and contribute to others. That's our soul need. And our ego needs are the certainty, the variety, the love and connection, and significance. Significance, then love and connection. That's the order. And sometimes I would find myself doing something, and in my head I'm going, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? But I had no control. My subconscious was doing this thing. But at the same time, I've realized that because of it, I've been able to learn about the whole mountain, not just the pathway, and apply that. And then, you know, so yeah.
Absolutely. It's the experiences, you know, nothing's in the lower. We are God having experiences. So yeah, it's fascinating. Okay. Nick, I think we'll do mine in another video, because otherwise it's going to be like very long for people to watch and they can pick and choose. So
this is part one then.
Thank you so much for sharing. We've been guided to share. I'm not sure why. Maybe we'll find out why soon. But we love you. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.
Cool. And we've got links are in the description for getting in touch with both of us, and tools on 5djourney.org. But generally we have lots of chats available to people for if you want to know more and want to chat more, and see us in part 2 when we look at Archeia Rose's journey. It's brilliant. It's so interesting. Right. Love you. See you on the next one.
Love you. Bye.